Welcome to Behind the Bower, where we offer inspiring conversations, a fresh look at arts in our community, and spotlights on artists, performers, collaborative partners, and organizations. We celebrate the universal expression of human experience through arts, culture, and community. Today, we're chatting with jewelry artist and instructor Avni Patel, whose work blends the rich traditions of her upbringing with clean lines and textures of contemporary design. From studying sculpture and jewelry making to handcrafting every clasp and chain in her pieces, Avni brings an incredible attention to detail and cultural depth to her work. She's here at the Bower Center this fall to lead a silver metal clay jewelry workshop, where students will create their own pressed leaf or flower pendants in fine silver. Whether you're a complete beginner or a seasoned maker looking for something new, this is your chance to explore a unique medium and leave with a piece of wearable art you made yourself. And we'll talk a little bit about that throughout the podcast and give all of the details of how you can register at the end, so stick around. Good morning, Avni.
Good morning, Lauren.
So glad you could join us. We're just going to dive right into these questions, so I can't wait to get started. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how your journey as an artist began.
So I grew up in India in a small town called Surat. It's on the coast, on the Arabian coast. It's basically a textile and a diamond industry town. And my journey as an artist began with my mom being an art lover, and she collected a lot of art all throughout her life. So we always had different kinds of art in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just intrigued by different techniques, and that's how I got into making sculptures. I have an undergrad degree in sculpture, and then when I came to US to get my master's, that's when I was introduced to small metal art.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so fun. I typically, when I interview artists, I like to start with that question about like how you got into art. And it's so cool to hear. It's very similar in a lot of places that their parents introduced them to art. Like art was always in the house. Music was always playing in the house. My family was in a band. My family, did this exhibit or got me into that class. So that's amazing that your mom just really encouraged that and surrounded your life with that art.
Yeah, and a lot of traveling also influenced my art, just the love for art. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So you studied both sculpture and jewelry making. How did those two paths influence each other?
So I started out with sculpture, and I used to make big metal sculptures, but they were mostly it was mix of metal, plastic, and plaster.
Mm-hmm.
And then when eventually I realized it's very hard to store them and also to transport them. And I always loved. I didn't get a lot of chances when I was doing my undergrad to work with a lot of like welding metal, and I was always intrigued with it. So when I came to US to get my master's, the Academy of Art University where I went to, they had a small metal arts program where that's where I learned how to solder silver and copper, and that's when I realized that this is a perfect blend for me because I can still work with metal, but then on a smaller scale as well. And so that's how my journey with sculpture, with jewelry started. And some of my earlier work was very sculpture as well, but it was all wearable jewelry.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's like a perfect blending. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So because of that, and also like where you grew up and your culture and your background, and you're just surrounded by all of this beautiful art and architecture, how did that environment kind of shape that creativity and what you create today?
So I'm always intrigued by the details in architecture, and especially in Indian art, because there's a lot of because of colonization and also Mughal influence. Every region has lot of different, I would say, designs and influences from different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So you see a lot of intricacy in carvings and uh, uh, the motifs, also traditional religious motifs, are
Mm.
seen in a lot of temples. So those little details, I always wanted to capture those details in my work.
Yeah.
Um, some of my earlier works also had like a whole temple architecture
Mm.
or a map of a there are these sun temples. I would use the map the architectural map of the temple to create my work.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Mm.
amazing.
And I just felt like it's a good way of introducing different architecture and art in a different way to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So your work blends like the ethnic and contemporary styles. How do you find that balance between those influences?
So it has evolved over time. Uh, I, I I still like using the motifs from architecture, but I've evolved because of where I am.
Mm.
A lot of traditional Indian jewelry was not. It's very hard to um, sell or people would understand it. Um, so when moving to the West, I've it has changed, but I've still used those little motifs
Mm.
uh, to create the work that do right now. And the stones also symbolize some of the temples or the area that the architecture comes from.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the next question I was going to add to kind of tag on to that are like, are there any certain patterns, motifs, or architectural designs from your heritage that you like keep coming back to? If I think you really answered that, I just keep hearing like, just the inspiration from the temples. I think that's
mhm.
often, if you want to elaborate that, on that answer, you definitely can.
Yes. So there's one motif. So it's called Kalash, and it's on the top of most of the temples, not all, but most of the temples.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the top part of the temple, and it's more like a curved a triangular shape, and that shape has it keeps on. Whenever I sit down to design anything, that shape just comes back to me, and
Mm.
I've used it in different ways. But yeah, that is one of the shapes that comes back to me very often
Yeah,
in my work.
that's awesome. That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, so that has evolved, and I'm still using it since
Yeah.
past 20 years. So.
Yeah, it's been a consistent. That's amazing.
Mhm.
So every part of your jewelry, even the clasps and chains, is handcrafted. Is that correct?
It is, yes.
Yeah. So what does that level of detail mean to you as an artist?
So, as an artist and as a handcrafted piece of art, I do like to add that detail to my work because uh, it makes it more special. And when I say that it is handcrafted, I I do want every piece of my art to be handcrafted. So
Yeah.
I try and if I have just a pendant and somebody wants a chain and the chain is not handcrafted, but like a simple chain, I would buy it and I can provide it for them. But
Right.
when it's a whole piece that I create, which has a detailed chain to it, and then the chain and the clasp, everything is I that's a detail that I would like if somebody buys it, then my customer to have it as a handcrafted piece
Yeah.
and not have a pre-made piece to it.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's because it would definitely, I mean, obviously it would be so much easier just to buy like the pre-made things, but to add that extra special touch of like, no,
Mm-hmm.
like literally every single thing on this piece is completely handmade and a complete original of yours. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Does teaching inspire new ideas for your own work?
Teaching, not ideas, but it does help me problem solve a lot of things. So when I teach, if my students have some technical problems, there have been times when I have not been through that problem, but then when they have the problem, I help them solve it. And so in future, it helps me when I'm working. I've already solved that technical issue, so it does help me that way.
Yeah, I think definitely that collaboration, especially in art, which I think is sometimes something that we miss in the art community is just like peer on peer collaboration or mentor mentee collaboration can still like really help with that logical problem solving, creative problem solving in a piece, make us look at it differently through a different pair of eyes. So I think that's really important.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Just looking at a different angle makes a big difference at sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's step into understanding what silver metal clay is, because we might have some listeners that may not know what it is. So for those who aren't familiar, what exactly is silver metal clay and what makes it so special to work with?
So silver metal clay is made from pure silver dust, and it is combined with an organic binder and a little bit of water as moisture. And it feels like a sloppy or so the texture is like a clay. And I love using it to teach because it's a very quick process. It works like clay. You can mold it and you can dry it and fire it using a blowtorch. You don't need a kiln to fire it.
Wow.
So it's a very quick process to learn and have a finished piece in your hand. So that's why I love using silver metal clay to teach a class, which a quick class. So people can. When you use wax also to make silver pieces, but then you have to cast it, and that's a very long process. Whereas just within 2 or 3 hours, you can have a finished piece.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And what do you personally love about creating with silver metal clay?
I like if I can use little impressions in silver metal clay, which are part. So if I would use it, do it on a sheet of metal, then I'll be engraving it. But then using it just on silver metal, I can use an impression on the clay, and it makes it a little bit quicker process.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just to give a little bit of insight, that's what students will be doing with this class that we have coming up, that we'll give all of the information for at the end of the podcast. So please stay tuned. But in your upcoming class, students will be making pressed leaf or flower pendants. So can you kind of walk us through the process, like start to finish, of what that's going to look like?
Yeah. So I'll be handing out a little piece of clay, which is about 5 grams, and then we'll be rolling it out with an acrylic roller. Students will get a choice to pick a flower or a leaf. And I usually bring in some samples, but they are welcome to bring in as well if they have something special that they would like to use. And we'll press the leaf on the rolled out clay, cut the edges off. There have been students who have not just left the edges and not cut it off. Just they like the organic shape when you roll out the clay. So it's up to the students what they want to do. Once that process is finished, we'll add the bail to the back of the piece where the chain goes. And then I have a little hot plate, so we put it on the hot plate to dry it off. That process takes about 10 minutes to 15 minutes to dry the piece off.
Yeah.
Once the piece is um, dried, we'll use a sandpaper to sand off any uneven edges, and then use a blowtorch to fire it. So and it only takes about 2 to 5 minutes for the clay piece, the dried clay piece, to turn into metal.
Yeah, that's
Once it
crazy.
turns, yeah, uh, and once it turns into once it cools down, um, we'll buff it up, patina it if they want to patina it. So patina is basically using liver of sulfur, and it makes the piece darker. And then it, I like to patina it because it gives it goes into the grooves of the veins, the impression of the leaf or the flower, and it just pops out the piece a little bit more. But it's totally up to the students what they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Do you notice that like usually students will come with a design idea or do they create as they go?
they usually create as they go. If there's somebody who has done it before, they might have an idea of what they want to do, but most of the time it's create as they go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. There's definitely that creative freedom there. And I know personally I'm a
Mm-hmm.
planner, so like I may come with like two if, doing something like this would come with like two or three ideas, but definitely would want that creative
Oh
freedom
yeah.
to be like if I completely scratch these ideas, like it's not going to like hinder the process or
Mm-hmm.
anything.
And there have been times when students have done is they 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 put the impression on, they cut it off, and they're like, oh, we're not really happy with it. And if we have enough time, then we can always start from scratch. So
Yeah.
there is yeah, if there's ample time, then we can always start back and uh, do the process again. So there is that flexibility as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so this workshop basically covers everything from like adding the textures, the firing process, and the polishing. So we talked about the step
Mm-hmm.
by steps. How are you guiding students through each step?
So every step uh, I do is I'll show I'll talk talk through the process, and if they need help, I'll also. Uh, there have been times when they have because it's a very small piece of clay. Sometimes it's even hard to roll it uh, for some people. But then if they're okay with me helping with their piece, I would help them roll it. But I would also show them. Um, I have a separate piece of clay, so I'll show them how to roll it, how to press it, um, and using tools how to cut the pieces off, the excess pieces.
Yeah.
But I'm always there, step by step, guiding them. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, any beginners out there that are interested in this class that maybe have not done something like this, Avni is there for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not like, you get told all these instructions up front and then you just get left alone. She's there every step of the
No,
way to show.
yeah, every step
Yeah.
of the way, yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'll ask this final question as we wrap up. What do
Mm-hmm.
you have a favorite moment or a reaction you've seen from a student at the end of the class when they received their piece?
Yes. The favorite reaction that I have always is when the metal turns into when the clay turns into metal,
Yeah.
because you see the glow. Like when you're heating up the clay piece, there's a little glow, orangish glow on the metal when it turns metal, and it's a very surprising moment, an exciting moment for students to see how it turns, especially for first time when you're doing it,
Yeah.
because you don't expect a clay piece to turn into metal,
Yeah.
and they're really afraid when it turns into metal. They're still afraid to hold it because they think it's going to break up,
Yeah.
as like clay wood. But yeah, that's I really love watching that when they're firing the piece.
Oh, that's so cool. That's like kind of magical. I love that.
It is very magical. It is, yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, Avni, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for just sharing your artistry and your story and your passion with us. If you are ready to try your hand at silver metal clay, don't miss Avni Patel's silver metal clay jewelry workshop at the Bauer Center for the Arts. This 2-session class, open to ages 13 and up, meets on Saturday, September 27th and Saturday, October 4th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. You'll learn how to texture, fire, and finish your own fine silver pendant working step by step with Avni's guidance. No prior jewelry experience is needed, just bring your curiosity and creativity. You can find all the details and register online at bowercenter.org under the Education tab. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We're so glad you joined us on this journey through arts, culture, and community, and we'll see you next time on Behind the Bower.